Hello. Now, you can see there I'm a little bit all over the place with different windows and stuff. I just want to check that I am actually live. So if you can see me, then just say hi in the chat box. Here we go. So there's David saying evening. So we're all good. It's just, yeah, every time I do these live streams, I have a little panic attack that it's not working because it doesn't show, people are viewing or whatever. But it looks like we're all good to go. So Lisa's here as well. So yeah, I know we're all working, which is great. I've just realized I forgot to put a notification out on Twitter that we were going live, but hey, we'll just sort of see what's going on. Hey Jeff, thanks for joining. So yeah, it's been a busy time since the last live stream. And if this is your first live stream, welcome. We change the topic each time we do a live stream. Sometimes, we'll do a run of logo reviews, and sometimes we'll just have a chat. And we've, very recently had we've done an interview with the guys from Drop Music Branding. If you haven't looked at the Drop Music Branding interview, I highly suggest that you do. It's a really, really interesting interview about audio branding. Very interesting topic, and they're actually going to be doing a live stream on LinkedIn next week, and I'm looking forward to tuning into that and learning a little bit more. So today, as you'll see by the title of the topic, it's a couple of logo reviews and a Q&A. The Q&A may happen, it may not. It depends if anyone's got any questions. If no one's got any questions, then we'll just do some logo reviews, or I might just blather for a bit. But yeah, we've got a couple of logos to review. One's actually David. So David had submitted a logo into our Discord community. As ever, I'll give it a little bit of a. We've got that. Let's put this above the live stream topic for now. So the Discord group is a community of just like-minded people who are designers, people who are not designers but are interested in design, and they kind of we've all kind of come together to basically just sort of talk about design, and people can ask me questions and I'll answer to the best of my ability. But what's really good is that the community is taking part itself and helping one another out and giving feedback on things. And like I say, David had actually posted, let me see if I can bring, so let's bring up the Discord here. So this is the Discord group here, and you can see here that we've got a section for getting feedback. And in here, David has asked for feedback on a logo, and Lise had actually asked for feedback on a logo as well. But I thought David's would be good to kind of have on the stream. We could have a discussion on that one. And I've also had someone who has submitted a logo for review through the website. Now, we've had a bit of a snag. Hey Fuad, hey Ben, thanks for joining. We've had a bit of a snag in terms of the logo which has been submitted through the website, in that the quality of the file that I've been sent is pretty small. So when we take a look at it, it's going to be quite pixelated. I did reach out to them earlier today and ask if they could send another high resolution version, but I haven't had anything yet. Let me just actually quickly check and see if there is an email from them with a higher resolution. I want to give them that opportunity. So just bear with me for a second. See if they've done that. I think we'll be able to kind of have a chat about it. Even if they haven't. No, it doesn't look like they've come through with that. So what we'll do is we'll just kind of crack on with the logo reviews, and then we'll kind of move into a Q&A, and if anyone has any questions, then I'm happy to answer. So let's just jump over to the desktop view for you guys. It's here. Okay, so this is from Hannah, and it's a client project, and it's for, the brand name is the Gorlick Candle Company, or Candle Co. Industry sector, events. Target audience, the super upper end fellows of society. So, I'm from that I took, people with money, aristocratic type people, high end professionals. Brand personality, cutting edge, sophisticated and modern. Brand qualities, hand-poured candles in many scents. They sell straight to event planners. So that's not really brand qualities. That's more about the, that's more about what the brand is. The product, and who they sell to. So we'll kind of work around that, and then any other information. Hannah was just wondering if this logo conveys the message above or not, and that the client asked for the crown in their logo. So as ever, I'd like the input of everyone who's watching. I'd love your feedback, your thoughts. As I've said, this is as you can see, this is very pixelated. I've had to actually increase the size of this, so we're looking at this at 23 pixels per inch at the moment. It was kind of sent to me, let's get it down to 72. So it was kind of sent to me this sort of size here. That's the size it was sent. So I've had to kind of, just increase that here so we can kind of get a look at it. And I think there's probably enough there for us to give some initial feedback based on that. So David's saying he likes the flame and the crown concept. So the first thing for me is, if we look at brand personality, cutting edge, sophisticated and modern, I don't think this looks like a modern logo, or it doesn't give off a modern cutting edge feel. This feels more like a heritage type brand to me. Sophisticated, yes, it probably, it can fit in that bracket. But in terms of, cutting edge and modern, not so much. Like I say, it feels more classical, got that heritage feel to it. Especially with the type. I'm not sure what the type is, because again, it's very pixelated, but it looks sort of along the lines of sort of Trajan Pro or Trajan. Let me just see. I'll just type out. Go. It's probably not, or it might be something more like, I don't know if I'll have it installed, like. It's not quite engravers, is it? So, and I don't think it's quite Trajan. I've only got Trajan Color by the looks of it. I thought I had Trajan Pro installed. Let me just quickly check my. Let me just check font base and see what I've got on here. Oops. But does anyone else think, that it looks cutting edge and modern, or do you agree? Do you think it looks cutting edge and modern, and you think the opposite of what my thoughts are? So there's, it's not Trajan, but it's that kind of thing. But I just think that gives off a different vibe to me. I think it gives off, it can give off a higher, a high end feeling. So you're talking about, it's the upper end, the target audience are people with money essentially. And, I think the color as well, sort of that gold bronze color, gives off a feeling of, upper end and wealth. David's saying, not sure the typeface suits the personality, and Lisa's saying, agreed on the heritage feel. A crown like KLM, Royal Dutch Airlines, that's right, yeah, comes to mind as more modern. I guess it's the more abstract simple, the more modern it will feel. And Danny's saying, the use of a serif makes this look traditional, more than cutting edge. Also, the leading needs to be tightened up, in my opinion. So, yeah, both very good points. The first thing that kind of struck me is, I mean, in a way, this is, it's quite a simple, a simple looking crown. We've got, the shapes here, which make it look more like a sort of a material crown, or, it's more rounded, which suits the flame shape. There's something about these two crescent shapes here where it's narrower in the middle and then gets wider as it moves around. I would have expected that to maybe be more parallel, so that you've got the same amount of space between each of these crescent shapes. I agree with Danny that the leading is quite, there's a lot going on, a lot of space going on here, so this could, so that could be pulled in. And again, with the type, as David has said, it's maybe not the quite... the type that you have here suits the type of crown that you have, Hannah. It kind of works together. But for me, what I'm not getting is the brand personality. And I think Lisa's right in that, the more simple that you go, and also with a sans serif, you're probably going to get the more modern and cutting edge look. And I just typed candle logo into Google just to see what would come up. And two which came in, which to me sort of maybe got across a little bit more modernity, a little bit more sort of modern, in terms of cutting edge. Something which feels a lot more cutting edge is this top one. It's more simplified, monoline, and then you just have you've got almost the negative space here is creates the candle shape, and then you have a very simple flame there, really, really simple at the top, and it has the crown shape there. So that to me is a more modern look. This one down here, the Lamada one, I like the way that they've used sort of the candlesticks and the candles, and they've introduced this subtle curve, which makes it look like a crown. And it feels just that little bit more modern, even though they've used a serif as well, something close to Trojans that I just used there to show as an example. So it's kind of somewhere between, these two would give you a more cutting edge and modern approach. I mean, you could just thinking off the cuff, if simplify it down. Actually, I'm going to have a look and see. Let's see if let's go to web again here, and let me just turn off Discord. Let's see, where did Chrome go? Properties. Okay, it doesn't look like I've got that there, but I'm just gonna cancel that. Let's go back to chat so you can see me. So let's go back to desktop here. I'm just going to do some simple shapes just to sort of get across what I think you could possibly, I'm not saying this is what you would do, but I'm just from the point of view of some simple shapes. So let's say you kind of did a triangle. Let's just widen that up there, and then take that shape and transform and reflect it. Okay, so let's kind of pull that across. I didn't do the full thing, did I? Why didn't that work? Let's try that again. Object, transform, reflect, Hey Greg, how you doing? Thanks for joining. We're just looking at Hannah's logo here for a candle company, and I was just sort of saying that, you know, she wants the brand personality to be cutting edge, sophisticated and modern. I think it gets a sophisticated look across, but I'm not sure that it's cutting edge, you know, and modern. And then if you kind of, let's just see by taking this one, take that, and no, it's not. Wasn't a good triangle, was it? So let's just try drawing another one. Let's just kind of, it's not going to be the best looking thing in the world. But if you kind of, you know, like, so there's a simple crown just done, like, you know, sort of monoline. But if you did something, you know, let's say we did something like that for a basic crown, but then, you know, if you look at the example that we have over there where they've just done like a really simple, almost a leaf shape for the flame. Let's get this, you know, not entirely symmetrical. And then you know, poorly sat that on the top, right? So not the best logo in the world, but in terms of more modern looking, compared to the more heritage, classical looking crown that you have up here, there's maybe something where you could maybe look more towards, you know, take a look at, you know, sort of KLM's crown, you know, the airline for that. Start looking at crowns which are of a more modern design, more simple design, and also looking at the text as well, and look for a more modern typeface. And I think you'll get more into the area of cutting edge and modern. And also, you know, that still, and if you were like, you know, you could still stick with the colors here, and I think black with this color would work and give it that, you know, high-end look and attract the super upper-end fellows of society that you were looking at. So I don't know. I mean, you've said there that they asked for the crown in the logo. I don't know if they've supplied this specific crown, or they've just asked for a crown in the logo. I think if it's just a crown in the logo, then you can get out, you know, you can really go to town and explore different ways of making the crown look more modern. But right now, I think you've got something which has much more of a heritage feel, which there's nothing wrong with that if that's the look that you're going for, but I don't feel that it kind of gets across what you're looking for here. And if the industry sector is events, you know, and you're selling straight to events planners, then maybe a more modern look will work for that too. And I think you'll probably have more scope when it comes to versatility and being able to use things in the wider branding with a more modern approach to the design. You'll be able to break things down more easily and use elements of that in the wider branding, especially for things like, you know, creating patterns and stuff. I think you'll probably have much more flexibility there with that. So yeah, if you watch this, Hannah, and you know you've got some feedback, then please reach out to me. You can even join the Discord group, you know, and, you know, take part in there. And, you know, we, as a community, we can work with you together and see how we can move this forward for you. I would love for that to happen. Otherwise, you can drop me an email with your thoughts, and you know, we can have a chat in the background, and maybe look at, as some people have done in the past, you know, go away, revise the logo that you initially submitted, and then come back with the revised version, and we can take a look at that again. So hopefully that's been some useful information for you there. So we're going to jump over now to David's logo and have a chat about that. Now I've not really looked at it or anything. I've too much. I want to kind of come at this and give, you know, as I normally do with these sorts of things, try to give my initial impression with this. Now, you know, this isn't an actual client. David's using this as an exercise to get better with his conceptualization and, building out logos. So if we kind of have a look at the information that David had, this is information that I've pulled from the Discord where he dropped that in. So the brand name is Dorian Life Coaching, and they're UK based. Target audience, male professionals 25 to 50 with personal life, mental health and well-being issues. Brand personality, strong, confident, creative. Brand qualities, approachable, personable and friendly. So the concept is I undertook the relevant research into the industry and the target audience. The case studies and testimonials I read had many recurring themes, and this was one of the most prevalent. Men who feel unsatisfied with low self-esteem and a lack of identity, who wish to invest in themselves and climb out of the situations they find themselves in. I experimented with various ways of combining letters from the brand name in an attempt to capture the above with this concept. So, it looks like we've got just a little bit more feedback on the previous logo. So let's have a look at that first before we move on. Danny's saying maybe the flames could demonstrate more movement and dynamism, maybe a stronger, funky colour for events. And Lisa saying, I agree with Danny, a dynamic looking flame would make sense with the cutting edge aspect. Yeah, it's good feedback. I think the events thing is important to take on board, and I think Danny's got a good point there. Stronger, funkier colours for events. But you also need to it depends on what type of events you're going to. Events are wide and varied as well. And I've created logos for events. Some have been for, very expensive ticketed events. And it's been, it was like hot foil, gold leaf, very, essentially the audience that Hannah was targeting. And then you've got other sides of events where it's like, very dynamic and, you want high energy colors. And so just because it's events doesn't necessarily mean that you want, punchy colors and things like that. Events can be very, very different. They could be, black tie affairs as opposed to festival type events. So yes, it's good feedback, but I think for what Hannah's going for, I think she's in the right area with sort of the color choices, but I think you can add more dynamism to it with that modern look. I think that could work quite well. So some good feedback there. So for David now, so we're kind of looking at David. So if you have, I know that Lise gave David quite a lot of feedback in the Discord group, and maybe Lise wants to kind of, can maybe post some of the thoughts that she had around the logo, and others can post theirs. So I'm going to sort of give my feedback, my kind of opening thoughts, and I suppose my first thoughts were I wasn't wowed by it, and I actually found, I find the colours quite cold. So where you're saying, brand personality, strong, confident and creative, and then the brand qualities, approachable, personal and friendly, I find the colours quite cold. I don't find it approachable and friendly and warm, and I don't find it doesn't kind of shout creative to me, because of the colours. First and foremost, they're the things that kind of grabbed me. Now, I know originally when you first put this logo up in Discord, I think you had life coaching in just black, but since then you've changed it to like a navy blue, like a dark navy blue, and I'm not sure that if that's really helped things with me from a color perspective. I would probably want to see something a little bit brighter in terms of color palette. Maybe an orange would work well with the blue, just to bring that creative spark, that sunshine and warmth into it. I think I would maybe want to see that. It could be making the most of this letter I here, because obviously what we've got here is the letter I is kind of like a little man who's going up and down the ladder you know, of the word coaching here. And obviously, you know, what we're wanting is the upward, you know, because as you said, you know, they're climbing out, they're trying to climb out of a situation or raise themselves up and out of a situation. And that will be, as you say, that's a common theme and something that you can focus on to. In terms of the type, the typeface, I think the typeface isn't bad. It feels, the word, the typeface you've used for Dorian, for the name, has got, you know, it's quite chunky and it's got a softness to it, and you've gone for leading uppercase and then lowercase, so you've got, you know, a mix of, you know, kind of the seriousness of having an uppercase letter to lean with. You've not gone all lowercase. Going all lowercase can sometimes be, you know, give off a more human feel because you've not got that capital letter there. It just feels a bit softer, no shouting, you know. But I think from the terms of being a coach, you want to have some of that, you know, you want to have some authority there. So, and, you know, if Dorian is the name of the person, then you probably want to lead with the uppercase as well, just from that, you know, from a grammar point of view. Because the letters are so thick, they hold a lot of color, and they're holding a lot of that blue, and it just, I don't know, for me it just feels like it's a bit of a kind of a sort of a sadder blue. And, you know, if people are, you know, they've got low self-esteem, lack of identity, and they want to climb out of something, then I would want there to be more of an, you know, an impact from a color perspective. And then we've got uppercase for life coaching, and, you know, probably the reasoning for going uppercase will be, you know, you get that H shape like the rung of a ladder, which allows you to replicate that, and, you know, you can then have this person climbing out of their situation up the ladder in coaching. Because of where the I is in the name, and then because of where the H is in coaching, you kind of end up with this sort of empty space down here. And it kind of, the logo feels unbalanced because of that. Now you're kind of stuck because of where these things are in the name, in the words, that's where that has to go. But like I say, it feels a bit strange. You've got this kind of, the whole width of this letter N here with nothing underneath it. And so it feels a bit unbalanced to me. I'm just going to zoom it out so I can kind of view it sort of at a smaller size. And actually at a smaller size, the negative space kind of feels more pronounced. The empty bit under here, like, you know, almost like that's going to kind of, you know, sort of fall down, because here life coaching is supporting these letters almost, but then the N is kind of dangling out on an edge. So there are some things there for me, if I think about this in terms of the message that it's giving across. There's, like, you know, it's almost, I don't feel like I'm trying to, you know, I'm being very negative about this, but I'm just thinking it through in terms of what I feel from the messages that it's giving me. So there are positive messages in climbing out of things, but then there's also the negative side of, you know, the colors feel quite cold. I think if you warmed that up, then that would help. But then, you know, it's life coaching and it's kind of about supporting people, but then this N feels very unsupported, you know, and it's at the end of the word as well. So, you know, if you're thinking about it in terms of a journey and a path, then, you know, there's no kind of support here. You could look at it, you know, that you've set them on a path that they don't need support anymore. But from a physical construction point of view of the logo, it feels a bit empty here. So I'm not sure what you could do there with that. Don't see, you know, nobody's kind of chiming in with any other comments, so I'm just gonna, you know, I'll just kind of crack on myself with this. I mean, I don't want to start playing around with colors too much here. But, you know, I would look to just, I mean, I'm just using the basic color palette here, but I would kind of look to different colors, even, you know, sort of lighter colors, just something that moves away from that colder blue. I mean, even a brighter blue. What if, let's get this back, actually. I should have just copied that. You know, even that moving to you know, more of a cyan just brings a little bit more vibrancy to that blue, and makes it less cold. I mean, this is obviously, you know, blue is cold, but this I don't know what it is. It just feels sad to me, whereas this one just feels a little bit more edge, a little bit more crispness to it. And I like that when, you know, we're talking about coaching, you want someone who has, who's going to lead, you know, who's going to, you know, say what needs to be said. And I think that the brighter actually work, you know, this is, I'm pretty sure this is a deep kind of blue. But because we've gone for this brighter blue here, it does make this look a little bit more black. And it might be that what you could do then is you could actually remove more of the, or just cut, you know, get rid of the black altogether. And you can then make that sort of a lighter blue as well, so it's less harsh. And then it just feels a little bit more open, feels a little bit more welcoming, even though we're stuck with the blue here. Let me just check. Danny's saying maybe the eye doesn't need to line up with the rest of the letters. The offset eye could add more movement, moving towards something rather than the client is there already. Yeah, I mean, there's different ways to approach it, especially if you kind of want to try to solve this space here. And one of the things as well is that I've done it as well so many times, is, you know, you find something where, you know, where you think, you know, so they invest in themselves and they want to climb out of situations. So you kind of like gravitate towards this climbing out thing, and then you think ladders. Oh, and then the eye could be, you know, could be the person climbing out, and you can kind of get caught in on that. But it's important to try to think about climbing out in terms of other ways as well. You know, so climbing out, they're on a journey of climbing out. So it doesn't always have to mean ladders and things. And I suppose it can look a little bit, cliched, and it can look maybe a little bit dated as well, because ladders have been used in logos and things. And so, you know, if you want something to look a bit more modern, then maybe trying to think a little bit outside the box of how this could work, in terms of, you know, visualizing, you know, getting out of a situation. You know, they're climbing out of a situation. They're forging a new pathway. They're on a journey. They're changing them. You know, changing themselves for the better. Different mindset. You know, so you start to think about climbing out of something is a change of mindset. You know, so can we move away from ladders and think more, you know, more abstractly about the mind, and, you know, think about, you know, what can we bring in there? Is there lots of different colors about, you know, kind of like the mind firing? So it's about getting, almost moving past sometimes the obvious thing. But I think there are ways as well that you can probably still bring in a ladder approach to climbing out. You know, it's an interesting one. I mean, here we've got, I'm just thinking off the cuff, here we've got, you know, the person climbing the ladder, but could it be, you know, that there's almost, you know, it could be like you're climbing, I'm just going to pull it, you know, like you're climbing up and sort of out of a hole, you know, so there's, you can climb, you know, you're coming up out of something. So you wouldn't do it like that, but that's an idea. Lisa's saying, I've already given my feedback, but I'll just repeat. I think it could feel more personal as it's an individual life coach. Yeah, I think it feels it feels more like an organization, and the feeling it gives me is like it's an organization that's been around for a while, and the logo's been around for a little while. It does feel a little bit dated to me, just from the approach. I suppose it's the same sort of situation as the Gorlick candle one. It's like it doesn't feel modern to me, and I think when you're approaching life coaching and stuff now, you want your brand to feel modern, like you're of today, and your methods and ways of doing things and teaching are modern ways of doing it. It's not not old fashioned. Lee's saying maybe it would be interesting to dive into what kind of struggles the target audience is facing. Are they unfulfilled in office jobs? Maybe use a nature reference as breaking out, for example. I mean, yeah, I mean, you do have to really know your target audience inside and out, and what are the commonalities. I mean, obviously, David's found a commonality that they're, feeling unsatisfied, low self-esteem, lack of identity. But then Lisa's, kind of in what areas what's making them feel like that? Is it, job situation that's making them feel like that? They're not being recognized for the work that they do. I'm sure it's wide and varied, and you'd end up with a logo which is trying to do everything. But I think that's why with life coaching logos and stuff like that, you tend to have more of an abstract icon as part of that, because there are so many different probably different pathways and solutions. Not everyone follows the same path to what they want and to get them out of the situations they're in. And so you kind of abstract it a little more so that the meaning, it can, people can look at it and bring their own meaning to it, and bring their own way of thinking, their own pathway to it. Whereas when you've got the ladder, it's very much the ladder, and climbing out. I mean, I don't know as well, if there was going to be a tagline here, or a strap line, is it going to be around, helping clients to climb out of situations? I just feel then, I'm just putting that in there. And if that was the case, it just feels like you're hammering this or beating me over the head with this ladder approach. Now, what I want to say is that I have also been in the ladder game of logo ideas, and what I want to do is I just want before I talk about that, actually, I just want to say that that David did actually provide a couple of icons as well. So these would be like used for social media icons, and you can I think he mentioned in the Discord that he'd removed one of the rungs of the ladders that the person is sitting on or standing on. And yeah, it comes from the logo, but it feels more like it's like an information like icon, like an eye for I'd click on it for further information, which not necessarily a bad thing, but if you're going to take it from the main part from the logo, then that's what you would go for. But it's not really doing much for me in terms of engaging me from a life coaching perspective. And so I just wanted to kind of talk through some stuff that I need to make sure I show this. So this was I had to work on I was working for a company called The Profitable Firm, who specialise in working with accountants, and I work with them when it comes to creating brand identities for those clients. Then they hire me to come in and work on the brand identity. And this was a company, an accountancy firm that had been part of a franchise. And I think the franchise was called Tax Assist or something like that. And so they were basically forming a new business with a new name, and the name that they'd gone for was Heighten. And so I was like trying to come up with ideas for heighten. And I think you can see here that I was along the same way of thinking. Just a couple of bits out of my, little bits out of my sketchbook. I was thinking about, sort of like elevating, so with them being an accountant, it was about helping their clients to, reach new heights with their business, and almost for some of them climbing out of that hole of finances, raising them up, making them feel better about their business, about their accounts, about their money. And so I was working on this, I'd moved into this way of thinking about climbing, helping them to climb out of problems. And so this is it was interesting when I saw David's logo. I was like, yeah, this is where I was at. And I got absolutely fixated on the ladder idea for a long time. And couldn't really get out of it. And then had to kind of go away and sort of look at my sketches and try to come up with another way of doing it, because I wanted it to look modern. But when I was working with the ladder idea, it didn't look modern. It looked modernish, but I wanted it to have a little bit more impact, and I wanted something where I could use part of it as an icon, on its own, that would work as a successful, quite a strong icon, but also gave that idea of moving upwards and, taking things further and climbing. And what I ended up with, so this is the final logo here, is I ended up with this for the client. So this is the final heighten logo. And so what I ended up doing was I ended up working with the H as if it was, like a graph. They're an accountant, and having that upward motion, and the G kind of forms an arrow. So as the G comes round, the arrow head pushes up. So it's almost like a ski jump, or like a ramp, and it, so it kind of launches. It's like it launches off, and that gave me something to kind of work with as well. It's quite an interesting H shape. I did think about having it at the start of the word, but because the H is kind of chopped down, it looked a bit weird. And then it was just kind of one of those things where the G shape being an arrow helped that part of the logo. And again, fortunate that it's pretty much in the center of the word heighten, so it has a focus on it. And I used, like you, David, I used thick lettering, and what I was able to do, because it was thick lettering, is just some of the mock-ups that I did for them. The H worked really well on its own. It was a nice kind of strong symbol that could work on various things, but it also worked really well as a container, like a container shape for imagery, because I had like quite strong weight. And the decision was made as well to keep the logo palette is black and white. We stuck with black and white, and then we introduced, I introduced this really bright supporting color palette to give the vibrancy behind it of kind of new things are happening, and it's it's a bright future, and it worked really well with the black and white. They could pick and choose when to use each of the different colors, and I kind of gave a couple of options, so they could they could stick with black and white for their stationery, or they could go with adding some color in here to kind of fill it. So what I'm saying is that yes, I got absolutely stuck on this. I mean, this is like a very small section of the amount of stuff I tried to do with ladders. I mean, look at this one here. Absolutely terrible idea, and it would never work. I had some stairs on the letter T. I changed the letter T into some stairs. Yeah, atrocious. It was never going to work. What else did we have? I had an H here, and I had an arrow sort of in the empty space going up, and then the other one, and then this one here, I had an arrow pointing upwards. I had some, looks like some sort of step things I had here going on here. I actually stuck with this one for quite a while as well. The floating H shape. So I think this is okay, but I think you've got more in you. I know you've got more in you because you've produced some great stuff. And I would love for you to go away and think about what Lee said. There's some stuff here that's popped up that I need to read, but think about what Lee said as well about what are the specific situations that that they're trying to climb out of. It might be that there are, when you look at it, there are maybe four main areas that they're trying to climb out of, and so then you've got the number 4. So can you have like 4 colors or 4 shapes, and then you think about climbing out in ladders and pulling themselves upwards through the help of the coach. What can you do with that? It's more interesting than the straightforward climbing out of a climbing up a ladder. Yeah, I think it's an okay concept for it, but I think there's more in it that you could bring. Let me just see here. David's saying, all right, so David's saying, I have a version on my artboard with the eye ascending like that in yours. Danny's saying, perhaps the eye could be a less vibrant colour with the other letters more vibrant. This offset could put across the difference. The heightened H lifted is kind of what I was thinking, not necessarily using a ladder. Yeah, David said, I do love that G. The G, I was kind of lucky with my word in the way that the G could work. And Lee's saying sometimes you have to sketch bad ideas to get out of your system so you can move on to better ones. That's generally what my first few hours are just getting terrible ideas down on paper and out of the way. And you need to, digital tablet. I know that I need to actually physically get them out the end of my pen or pencil to remove them from my head, because otherwise it's amazing. You can think an idea looks okay in your head, and then when you put it down on paper, even roughly, you're like, yeah, that's not going to work. Because I for some reason I thought that step idea on the T could work, so I could probably make that work. But then even that rough sketch is like, yeah, that's not going to work. It's going to look terrible. So yeah, you're right. You've got to get all the terrible stuff out there. But sometimes the terrible ones have a little nugget of possibility around them, and if you can kind of chip that little nugget off of the terrible whole, then that sometimes germinates into a really, really good idea. I've had that in the past where I've really struggled and I've gone back and looked at my first kind of roughs and went, actually, I think I could probably develop something from that, rather than going back and starting on another white piece of paper. So some good ideas there from the guys about this. But hey, Apperson, thanks for joining. We just finished a couple of logo reviews, and I'm hoping it's been useful feedback. Actually, I'm looking forward to continuing this on with you, David, in Discord. I really want to see where you can take this, and how you can kind of make more of this. Danny's idea of kind of working, making the eye either a different shade or even an entirely different color is worth exploring. Sometimes you want to make sure that you're not breaking up the word too much. It's a short word, but you may it may break up. It may break things up a little bit, and not it'll highlight the eye, but sometimes it's like doesn't make sense to go across. So David saying, I think this is a case of my inexperience making an appearance. I'll get there. Yes and no, but like I say, you know, when I did the Heighten logo, I had lots of experience, but I still got stuck on, you know, I got fixated on the ladder for a long time, and it took me to get like super frustrated at myself to walk away and say, I need to walk away from this, and, you know, give myself some time to just regroup and think about it. And what I actually did was I reached out to some friends who are designers, showed them what I was doing, and it's amazing what some people will see that you don't. You know, you've probably got something sketched down, like Lise was saying. You've probably got something in the what you think is the terrible pile, but someone else looking at it will maybe see something in there and go, well, you know, why don't, that's got possibilities, you know, and you could work on that. So what I would like to see actually is more of your sketches. Be good to kind of, you know, for you to drop those into the channel, Discord channel, so that we can have a look at sketches. But with the Heighten one, I got some great feedback from the other designers that really helped me push forward and get that Heighten one. You know, after that one kind of sort of helpful session of just saying, like, here's where I am, I'm really stuck. I got some really good pointers, and I was able to just free myself up to think about things in a different way. And that's really what I'm hoping that we can do for you here, is kind of help sort of free things up a little bit from away from the ladder. Now, the ladder, in terms of a conceptual idea, is not a bad one. I just think it needs to be handled in a slightly different way, so that it's not as kind of like it's come from the first set of ideas that you've put down. You want to push through that and see where you can come from. So yeah, I look forward to seeing where we go with that. And, you know, I know that you will continue to work on it, and I would love to be able to bring this back to the live stream once you've worked on it some more, and, you know, the community's kind of given feedback and helped you, and see where it goes. I think that's always interesting for people to see where the journey ends, and see where this logo climbs out of for its final result. So yeah, thanks for submitting that, and also thanks for submitting your logo, Hannah. Hopefully I'll hear back from you once you've watched through the live stream, and we can have a chat about that as well. So does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask about brand or branding or anything? Or, you know, we can make this stream a rare hour-long stream and kind of finish it here. Always open to questions in the Discord. Happy to answer those there. So, you know, if you're watching this as a replay, please do join if you've got some questions that you want answered. Danny's asking, how long did I work on Heighten? Probably felt a lot longer than it was. In kind of terms of like time scale, as in, you know, from when I started to when I finished, it was probably, I think it would probably be about 3 to 4 weeks. But obviously I wasn't working on that all the time. In terms of total time from concepts to refining the actual logo to getting the mock-ups done, it's hard to kind of go back. You know, if you include meetings and things, it's probably about, in terms of hours, 16? Maybe about 40 hours. So maybe, you know, like a week. A week's worth of time from, you know, bit of research. The thing with working the way this project works, when I work with PF, the Profitable Firm, they do a lot, their team do a lot of the brand strategy work. So they research, they do the research and do brand strategy discussions and meetings with the client. So I'm given a lot of the strategic findings that I would normally do with my own clients. So I don't have to do much or any of that. I still do a little bit of research myself, but I don't have to do as much. So yeah, it's probably about 40 hours or so, 35 to 40 hours from beginning to delivering the final logo files for me. That's how long it took. That's a guess, but that's roughly how much time I spend from beginning to end. Sometimes it's quicker. Sometimes it's more quicker, done more quickly than that, and sometimes it can take longer. But on average, it's about a good working week, I suppose, of time to get that done. Yeah, so let me just jump back to the chat. So we're not all looking at, still looking at that. But if no one's got any more questions, I'm kind of happy to finish up the call here. The the question channel will always be open in the Discord, so people can drop questions in there at any time, and I will happily answer them in there or on a future live stream, so that anyone who's who isn't part of the Discord group can still learn from the Q&A. I think that would be a good thing to do, rather than keeping it all closed off. Lee says she did post a question in Discord. Let me have a quick look here. I can't remember if you talked about it before or if it was someone else. I'd be interested to hear about your approach to follow-ups. All right, okay. So you did. I didn't check it. I think you posted that just as I started the live stream. So let me just check here. Sorry, but do you usually do follow-ups with clients on their branding later to see if everything is still working for them? If so, would you do a whole new strategy session, or would you just ask them if things are working? That's a good one. I'm not the best at following up. Sometimes you finish a project, the client's really happy with it, I'm really happy with it. And you hand everything over, and then you start the next project, and you get really you get caught up in that project and the other projects that you're working on, and time seems to fly by. So I was really bad at following up. But yeah, it is good to kind of follow up, and there's no real sort of set time. Obviously, you want things it will take time for certain analytics to show, whether, it's having an effect on more visitors to their website, if their social media interactions are better because they're doing better graphics, and they have more consistency. That takes time to show. Sometimes it can show really quickly, but sometimes it takes longer. So I will usually follow up maybe 2 to 3 weeks afterwards, just to see if there's any niggles with maybe the files that I've supplied. Maybe there's some issues or they couldn't open them, because sometimes clients have problems opening like zip files and stuff like that, or they're not sure what the different file types are. I do provide a cheat sheet with my logos to tell the client what all the different logo files are for, all the different file types, but not everyone reads it. So it's good just to do a courtesy kind of follow-up, make sure everything's okay. Sometimes it's a follow-up to just chase up the final invoice. Sometimes that's the excuse to chase up, is that you still haven't had that balance yet. But generally, I don't send over logo files and things until I've been paid. So if I'm, it'd be a rare occasion to be following up for an invoice if I've already sent the logo files. That really doesn't happen. I've done that once or twice where the client really needed them for, to get some merchandise done, or they were needed for an event, and I've sent over logo files, or a few logo files early, before I've created the full logo package, just so that they can use those. But that's only really done if I have some trust in the client. You don't want to be sending over files like that if you've not been paid. And then I'll kind of just check in, a few months later, see if things are good. And also it's an opportunity to, see if they need any more work done. Quite often, when you do branding work, there'll be a set of priorities that the client needs. Sometimes it's stationery. I mean, even these days, it's rare that a client's going to need printed stationery, letterheads and business cards. Not many of my clients use business cards anymore, which is a shame because you can do some really nice things with business cards, but people just don't seem to use them much anymore. And with letterheads, if I am creating a letterhead, it's for digital use. They'll use them in Microsoft Word and then they'll save it out as a PDF. But when you do those kind of the prioritized stuff, as they move further down the line and start using more of the new branding, things will appear where they need stuff done. And like us in our own businesses, it can be, we need to get that done. And it just gets put to the side because, it's like they haven't got time for it or whatever. So, but by catching up with them a few months down the line, and asking, is there anything, anything that I can do for you right now that would help you push the brand out further, help with consistency. Maybe they were using some, and this happens a lot, maybe they were using some old brochures still because they didn't want to waste them, and so they were continuing to use those. Maybe they're getting close to the end of those brochures now, and they need new ones done with all of the updated branding. So you might hit them at that point, which is a good time, for them to think about starting to redo those. So I don't have specific timescales. I'll kind of play it by ear. I always follow my clients on LinkedIn. And so even if I, haven't put in my calendar that I should follow up at a certain point, I do see their posts on LinkedIn, and sometimes that can be just enough for me to just check in with them and make sure, everything's okay, anything that I can help with. Because it's much easier to, continue a relationship with an existing client and ask if they're needing any work done than it is to find new clients. And by keeping up the relationship with your existing clients, and let's say you contact them 6 months after you've done some branding work for them, and you're just saying, hey, I'm just checking in, just seeing how things are going, and you can also check in as well from the perspective of if they've not given you, a testimonial or a case study, they've now had time to sit with the logo and the branding, is now a good time to discuss, maybe giving me a testimonial, because that's going to help me get new work. And also if they don't need anything from you, you're checking in, you're keeping the relationship going, and it's, you can ask them, is there anyone in your network that, are they talking about, has anyone been talking about how they're not happy with their brand or their branding? Is there anyone that you can, recommend to me, that would need my help? And, you'd be surprised at how often a client will say, actually, you know what? I have a friend, and they could probably do with speaking to you, or someone mentioned the other day that that they're maybe getting a new website, but they're thinking about needing to get their logo done first. Striking up those conversations can really lead to a pathway of new work. Sometimes it might just lead to a conversation, but that conversation has now put you in the radar of a potential new, a prospect. They're not a client until they've paid you money, in my opinion. They're a prospect or a lead, but it puts you in front of new ones that, you're not having to advertise or, go out and network with. You're networking with your existing client base, and they're introducing you to their network. And that's where you should really be utilizing your clients the most, is doing good work for them, where it's an absolute no-brainer for them to recommend you to their wider network. People are always looking for good designers, and if you can have your client recommend you to their network, that there's a certain element of trust that's already built then between you and the new prospect. And, you can then reach out to them and say, hey, I did the new logo or the recent logo and brand work for X client. It was great working with them, and I was having a chat with them the other day, and they mentioned that, you mentioned you were thinking about, your brand, and I'm just kind of reaching out to see if, you want to have a call and we can kind of have a quick chat about, what you're thinking, and maybe I could offer you some advice. No pressure to use my services. I'm happy to give you some advice if it will help you, move your brand forward. It's always important to not kind of come across as pushy and trying to get a sale from them. You just want to reach out and help, and sometimes that is all that will happen. Is you'll have a half-hour call with them and you give them some advice and they go away, and that's all they needed. But again, what you're doing is you're putting out good karma, you're being helpful, and then that person will potentially mention you to their extended network. So you're just kind of pushing yourself out there, and you never know, sometimes it's years, 4 years will go by and someone will go, hey, you probably don't remember, we had a quick chat, I'm now ready to move ahead. That happens a lot. The longer you're the longer you're in the design business, then you've got those spaces of years for that to happen. If you're brand new, then it's going to be a little while. But it's amazing how you can forget about someone because you're busy and you move on, but you've had a half-hour chat with someone and it's actually meant a lot to them, and you've given them a lot of good advice that sits with them for 4 or 5 years. And when they're actually ready and need to do something about their brand, you're the first person that they think of 4 or 5 years later. So reaching out is definitely an important thing to do. As I say, I'm not the best at it. I should be. I should definitely get a lot better, because it would make things easier in terms of getting new work. But I'm fairly fortunate in that I do get, I get leads coming in through YouTube and stuff. But I shouldn't rest on my laurels there, because that kind of stuff can dry up. And if you've not been doing any other sort of lead generation work, then you could be in trouble. So I need to kind of follow my own advice a lot of the time, and just sort of catch up with clients and make sure that everything's okay. So hopefully that answers your question. It looks like there's been a few more questions since then. David's saying, your hat has given me an idea to improve the logo. Need to go up a gear or two with this one. Okay. Terrible jokes. If you are going to join the Discord, you will, warning you now, you'll be treated to David's jokes on a daily basis. So, if you're going to come in there, be prepared for a lot of puns, a lot of design puns happening in the Discord. Danny's saying, forgive me for asking, have you ever discussed BBC's rebrand in other live streams? I don't think I have. I would need to take a look at it. I vaguely heard something about it. I don't know if it's if it's a big rebrand or if it's one of those very subtle ones. The BBC have had those letters in squares and then not in squares, and they've just rounded very subtly the corners of some of the letters. So I'd have to have a look at that, but I haven't. But if that's something that you'd like me to do, this was what I think today's logo reviews was sort of episode 15. So it's the 15th time that I've reviewed viewers' logos, but it's been a while since I've done anything where I've kind of looked at larger brands logos. I think I've only really done that in edited videos. I've not done it on live streams, but that could be something that's worth doing. If you spot a big company that's rebranded or something, then more than happy to have that as a suggestion, and we could discuss it on a live stream and get everyone's thoughts on that. Hey Henry, how you doing? Late for you again, I suppose. JC is asking, any tips on best ways to secure a trademark from the cheapest ways to more pricey? Okay, so and to answer your second question, will you be keeping the live stream up? Yeah, I'm gonna. The live streams will continue. Sometimes, my plan is to do them every 2 weeks, but sometimes things come up. Family stuff comes up unexpectedly. Someone's ill or whatever, and sometimes I have to do some client stuff. But I do try to keep to 2 weeks. If I get, so for example, I should have done this live stream last week, but I couldn't. So what I do is I move it to the next week. I don't give it another 2 week gap. I try to do it as soon as I can. So yeah, I'll continue to do the live streams as long as I can. But I also want to get back to creating edited videos. But I also want to get back to doing a lot of things, and time can be precious. So it's getting round to that. In terms of your question about trademark from cheapest to more pricey, the cheapest way is to do it yourself. That's by far the cheapest way to do the trademark, is to do it yourself, because you're not having to pay someone else to do anything. So really, when you do it yourself, all you're paying is your local. Well, here in the UK, it's a government body. I'm not sure if it's a government body all over the world. I think it maybe is some arm of the government. But all you're doing is you're just paying the fees that the government charges to do the trademarking. So I think in the UK I think it's I might be wrong, but I think it's £175, and that includes one classification, and then for every extra classification you need to be in, it's another £50, and you just keep adding on. For every classification you add on, you add another £50, and you can submit that yourself. The more expensive way of doing it is to use a specialist, obviously. But the benefit of using a specialist is that they do it all the time. They will spot any sort of potential errors that may see the trademark be denied, and they can then sort of advise you and say, okay, that's probably not going to go through because of this and this. So what we would do is we would suggest that you change this, or we submit it in a specific way. They also have they'll also do searches to make sure that there's no one else who is going to conflict with your trademark, and again potentially see a failure. Because the thing with if you submit a trademark, if you submit a logo or a name for a trademark and it fails, you lose your money. They don't refund you because it didn't go through. You lose all of that money. So by using a trademark specialist, then they will do much deeper research than you can, because they've got all the tools to do proper full searches of trademark databases. So they'll be able to kind of let you know if there's going to be any clashes before you submit the trademark. Now, they'll probably charge you a fee for doing those searches. So it's kind of, it's how much it comes down to how much trademarking is worth to you, in terms of protection of your brand and your business. A trademark is if you have a trademark, if you get your logo and brand name trademark, then that becomes an asset to your business, to your company. And if you were going to sell your company and you own the trademark, then that's a good asset to have, that you can advise to the buyer and say, look, we own the trademark and stuff, so you're absolutely safe. No one's going to copy the name or copy the logo. We have protection, and so that protection is worth something if you want to sell your business on and onwards. And all I'll say is I was initially looking to trademark my logo myself, and I was ready to do it myself. And then someone that I know used a company, and it's Trademark Wizards. I'm hoping to get Trademark Wizards on a live stream. I'm hoping to do an interview with Oliver, who runs the company. I need to reach out to him again. That's a good reminder that I need to do that. And a friend of mine had used them and kind of just recommended them to me, and I had a call. I just had like a free sort of courtesy call with Oliver, and just from that call, I knew that I needed to use them to do this, to do it properly, because I may miss. The thing is, as well, as if you register a trademark under a classification and it goes through and it gets registered, great. If you then want to add another classification, you can't actually add it to the one which is already trademarked. It's a complex process. You have to kind of, I think you have to trademark again. It's a weird way that it happens, that you have to go around it. But when I spoke to Oliver and and took him on as the professional to kind of take me through that, they pointed out so many things to me that I just was unaware of. Like, you can trademark logos in what's known as a series, so the name and the logo can be trademarked together, and they're known as a series, and that kind of cuts down on fees and stuff. I didn't know any of this. I'd missed out on some classifications that I should have been in, just lots of things. And then probably the biggest one for me, and I think I've mentioned this before, probably on a live stream, what the biggest thing for me was that when my trademark was going through for one of the elements, for the PI symbol that I use for Pixels Inc., my sort of main business, there was there's a time period where when you submit your logo for trademarking, it goes on to a public register to give people time to potentially object to it if they feel that it infringes on their trademark or their something that they've already registered. It gives them time to object to it. And a lawyer firm contacted Trademark Wizards with an objection to my application. It was a ridiculous application. It was a ridiculous objection. But if I'd have had to deal with that on my own, I would have had to pay lawyer fees. I wouldn't have known what to do. I mean, I was ready to kind of back out of this and go, oh, okay, I don't really need the PI thing, can I just walk away? And the advice was, no, if you walk away, you're basically admitting to them that you've been using this, and you've been infringing on their trademark, so that actually opens it up to them being able to sue you for potential loss of earnings and stuff. It all got a little bit scary for me. But part of the service fee, or part of the offering through Trademark Wizards, is that they handle all of your legal stuff. So they just did. I didn't have to do anything. They dealt with all of the lawyers and and all of that. And in the end, what happened was we came to an agreement, and everything just went through, and I got my trademark. But if I didn't have that, then that would have been quite stressful, because it's over. It was over sort of. The objection came in March, and it wasn't finalized until sort of September, October. So that was a long time that I would have, had to deal with that on my own. So yeah, when you think about cheap and pricey in terms of just pure monetary terms, then yeah, you can do it on your own and it won't cost you as much. But where the value lies in the pricier option is that you're working with an expert who can really help you out of any potential problems. Now, you might not have any problems, and that's when you go, oh, I should have just done it on my own. I would have saved myself a lot of money. But I kind of treated it more like sort of having insurance, that if anything does go wrong, then I will be protected. And it just so happens that I was unfortunate enough to have someone who came through, big lawyer firm from New York, saying, hey, you're not getting to register that, and we believe our client owns that trademark already. Turns out they didn't. They actually submitted a trademark application a month after me, when they saw that I'd submitted mine, and they were saying they'd been using PI longer than I had, but I was able to show evidence that I'd been using it for 7 years before they said they'd started using it. So they didn't have a leg to stand on, but in the end, we came to an agreement, and it's all good and I've got my trademark. But yeah, so there's cheap and cheerful, and it might go through and you might be okay, or you pay more, use a professional company, and have that added protection in case anything goes wrong. So it's really kind of weighing up the risks with it, and making a choice based on that. But as I say, I'm hoping to get Oliver onto the live stream, and I think, having Oliver give his views and advice on trademarking will be really, really useful to everyone who watches this channel. I think it'll be really, really great advice. And then you can make a decision yourself. I think Oliver could probably give enough advice that would make people feel more comfortable registering it on their own. But at the same time, it will also make people aware of potential pitfalls, and what can happen if you don't do it right. And that then may make people consider using a professional trademark company. Oh yeah, Henry's saying it's 2 a.m. where he is. That's crazy. Hey Dolly, long time no see. It's been a while. I've not done anything with Twitch in what seems like forever. I don't know if I ever will. I seem to be settled on YouTube now. David's saying would love to hear Oliver talking about this. Yeah, so would I. And I think what I'll do is I'll make a point of reaching out to him again tomorrow, and see if we can get something booked in. I mean, we might even get him booked in for the next live stream in 2 weeks' time, which would be awesome if we could. So I'll see what I can do about that. But yeah, so if no one's got any more questions, we can call it a day. I've enjoyed doing some logo reviews again. It's been a while, but I enjoyed that, and looking forward to continuing the conversation with you, David, and anyone else who submits stuff in the community feedback in the Discord. So yeah, I think we'll end it there for today. It's been a long, busy week for me. I've still got tomorrow to go, so I'm going to sign off and do some prep work. And I wish everyone a good Thursday evening or daytime if you're behind me, or like Henry, who's already in Friday. Have a good Friday and weekend when it comes. And if you've been watching the replay on whatever day, I hope it's been a good one for you, and I will catch you on the next one. So until then, stay creative, folks, and I'll see you later. Bye for now.